From June 23rd, 2016 until today, the issue grasped by Remainers, the European Union and many others was Northern Ireland. It was the border with the Republic of Ireland. Brexit must not be allowed to threaten the Belfast Agreement. Brexit must not be allowed to threaten the peace process. And the absolute touchstone of all of this was, of course, the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. Now, some of us pointed out that already there were different tax regimes, be it on direct tax, be it on indirect tax, be it on corporation tax. Many of us pointed out there was even a different currency, and yet, live and let live, and life went on. But we were told there had to be a very different, specific status for Northern Ireland because of that border. And so Mrs. May swallowed this hook, line and sinker, along, of course, with her civil servants, most of whom did not want Brexit to succeed. And if I was being generous, I would say that Boris Johnson inherited a very difficult hand of cards. If I was being ungenerous, I would say he couldn't give a damn about Northern Ireland because there are no votes there. But what I'm certain of is that when Johnson said, and he went to Northern Ireland and spoke at the DUP conference triumphantly, when he said there'd be no trade disruption between the mainland and Northern Ireland, either he wasn't telling the truth or he didn't understand the deal that he was signing. What we're learning in these early weeks post-Brexit is that there are significant problems between us and Northern Ireland. Now, whether they're teething problems, whether it's more fundamental, let's examine in a moment. But this idea that the border is sacrosanct, what utter tosh. We saw Ursula von der Leyen panicking the other Friday night because her vaccine policy is a disaster compared to ours. She described the European Union as a tanker and us as a speedboat. I'd rather think of her as being part of a sea of total incompetence, but she was prepared to put a hard border in to prevent vaccines going from the Republic into Northern Ireland. And then, astonishingly, today in County Monaghan, we saw the Garda, the Irish police, turning cars around that had travelled across the border, sending them back into Northern Ireland, blowing out of the water a common travel area that's existed between the Republic, or as it originally was, the Irish Free State, and the United Kingdom, and it's been there for the best part of a century. We're now told that from Monday, anybody caught crossing the border from the United Kingdom, i.e. Northern Ireland, into the Republic will be fined €100. They've put in place a hard border. They said if we did this, there'd be terrorism. I haven't yet seen any bombs going off, I'm very pleased to say. My feeling is this whole thing has been a charade from day one, and we need to do something. But don't take it from me. Let's go to County Antrim. Let's talk to Ian Paisley, MP. Ian, first things first, tell me about the restrictions of trade. If I'm a UK exporter, a mainland exporter, a Great Britain exporter, and I want to sell to you, produce for a garden centre or whatever else it may be, how difficult are these restrictions?
Well, good evening, Nigel, and good to talk to you. Can I say this, that for the last number of decades, indeed for the last 100 years, any trade within the United Kingdom has been sacrosanct. It hasn't been molested by different tax regimes or different currencies. So we've been treated the same. So whether you were living and working and selling from Bournemouth to Ballymena, it was the exact same as if you were selling from Bournemouth to Colchester. There was no difference whatsoever. From the last day of last year, first day of this year, for the last almost 40 days now, Northern Ireland's trade has been completely messed up as a result of the protocol. And when I say messed up, seriously messed up. So I have hauliers in my constituency who cannot get across the Irish Sea and cannot bring goods back into Northern Ireland, which they would normally have brought in, because of this new trade requirement, where effectively we're treated as a foreign country, where effectively traders have to fill in export documents as if they're trading with China or Tibet or somewhere like that. Now, could you imagine a Yorkshireman accepting having to fill in forms to send his goods down to London? I don't think so. But on principle, that is exactly what has happened in Northern Ireland. And we are being screwed over, financially ruined, and financially penalised to punish the United Kingdom because we're the easy prey in all of this. Let me give you a quick example of everything that's affected in the last month. Antique furniture, frozen foods, fresh foods, PPE equipment for the NHS, pharmaceutical equipment, pets, animals and livestock being brought over for trade shows in GB or for sales, second-hand phones, second-hand cars. All of these things are now subject to a new tax regime. Steel, for the first 20 days of January, had an extra 25% tax on it. And given that I make in my constituency the largest amount of buses for the whole of the United Kingdom, that made us
Are you
compete.
Are you telling me, Ian Paisley, there are now tariffs within the United Kingdom?
If you want to sell steel from one part of the United Kingdom to another part of the United Kingdom, namely Northern Ireland, up until last week, there was a 25% tax on that, just to trade within our own borders.
But Boris Johnson came to your party conference triumphantly and said there'd be no barriers to trade between Northern Ireland and the rest of the United Kingdom. How do you respond to that now?
Well, he used the F word, Nigel. He said it would be frictionless. He said it would be frictionless. And it wasn't. It clearly is not frictionless. It has now caused the greatest amount of friction, has actually reduced. I mean, I have hauliers weekly losing £100,000 worth of trade because they cannot move goods from one part of the Irish Sea to the other. So Boris Johnson either did not understand what he was doing, and I tend to believe that he wasn't across the detail, or else it was a deliberate, catastrophic act to punish and to accept punishment in the UK over Northern Ireland. I don't believe he did that.
But your opponents, Sinn Féin in particular, would say, well, Mr. Paisley, you wanted Brexit. This is what you got.
Listen, Nigel, I campaign with you for the same Brexit as the people of the rest of the United Kingdom. I've been handed a different Brexit. That's the problem here. We've been handed Brexit plus a protocol that effectively keeps us in the European Union and makes us what I've described as a proxy for the European single market. So I and my traders are protecting the European single market in Ireland. And the punishment for that is our trade gets hurt. Now, I don't really care.
But they'd say, Mr. Paisley, a protocol that maintains the Belfast Agreement, a protocol that stops a hard border, a protocol that guarantees peace in our time.
Well, I think what the government has done has now created instability economically. They have created a situation where, and if we have instability economically, that festers and feeds instability politically and could fester and feed people going out onto the streets. So we had a border all the time in Ireland between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. We now have a second border. How many borders do we blinking well need? There is one de facto, de jure border on this island. It's an international border. And if the European authorities and if the Irish Republic want to police and man that border because they fear what could happen in our territory may affect the European single market, that is a matter entirely and exclusively for them. I don't comment on the fact that the guards are already on the border stopping people moving across the border because of COVID. So that's entirely a matter for them. Why on earth can't they do that when it comes to trading goods?
So from Monday, if you drive across the border into the Republic, you could be fined €100. I mean, it's almost beyond belief that we've got to this situation. But my real concern is that a barrier has been put up within the United Kingdom. You've been cut off. We can't sell you garden produce. You can't sell us young eels. There's all sorts of stuff that this really affects. On Thursday, there is a meeting taking place in London between Michael Gove and Mr. Šefčovič, one of the top cheeses in the European Commission. They invoked Article 16 of the Northern Irish Protocol. They revoked it shortly afterwards. We're told that what Mr. Gove is pushing for is for an extension of the grace period before these rules really come into force. Is that a pragmatic, sensible way forward?
Well, when the Grand Fromage of Europe, Mr. Seshkovich, meets with I hope, the cheese knife of the United Kingdom, Mr. Gove, he will slice him, because this protocol for the last 35, 36 days has been an unmitigated disaster. And we're already in the grace period. So we know that the grace period doesn't actually work. I would appeal to Michael Gove, do not think that you can kick this can down the road for 6 months, a year, even 3 years. It just extends the crisis. Let us get a solution that actually works. We don't have to be the proxy zone for the European single market. That's up to the European single market to sort out its affairs. And I've said before, the Europeans are able to be flexible when it suits them. We're now asking the United Kingdom to be unionist. That's what they are claimed to be, and to defend as part of the union.
So has the time come to scrap the protocol?
I believe the protocol can be scrapped, and I believe it can be scrapped under its own terms and conditions. So there's 2 clauses within it, but principally protocol clause 16 allows for it to be set aside if it causes societal difficulties, economic difficulties, and on problems that cannot be resolved. Now, it's clear within days of this coming into operation, we've got major problems now arising. So let's invoke Article 16 and move on. Of course, Europe did this for a period of 4 or 5 hours last Friday, a week ago, when they decided that they wanted to steal vaccines out of our arms.
And they could do it again, and they could do it again anytime. Now, we've got a petition, of course. It got 100,000 signatures. I backed Arlene Foster in doing this.
Thank you.
But Ian, you know that what you demand politically and what you can realistically expect can be 2 different things. Is it actually possible that the British government recognises the disruption to trade is so ruinous that they do get rid of this protocol and make the entire United Kingdom free?
Well, Michael, Nigel, I would love to believe that Michael Gove wants to do that. But I'm not going to hang on his words. I'm going to look at his actions. And it's up to Boris Johnson, Michael Gove, and all of the others to recognise that they must now treat Northern Ireland fairly. They should scrap the protocol. It's the easiest way forward for us all. It's been shown to be a sham and just a political expediency to punish the United Kingdom. Let's set it aside. Have they the courage to do that? I hope and pray they do. But I do know that dealing with the Conservative Party in the last number of years, it has been very disappointing for Northern Ireland. We have been let down. We have, in fact, been betrayed. And remember, we kept them in power. We kept them in power.
But when they needed your votes, Ian, they were very, very nice to you. Finally, last point. Do the DUP want to put a hard border up between Northern Ireland, the United Kingdom, and the Republic?
Definitely not. And it's not required. There's no necessity for a hard border on the jurisdiction between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. We've got a common travel area. That common travel area existed long before both states entered the European Union, and it can remain in place. All the European Union has to do is make sure that anything leaving its single market is properly protected. They can do that from the port of Dublin and anywhere else in the Republic of Ireland. Don't use me as a European proxy, please.
Thank you. Well, that was Ian Paisley MP. And the argument's very clear, isn't it? We are a United Kingdom. This Brexit deal that Boris has negotiated, albeit he was given a very bad hand by Theresa May, has made us a very disunited United Kingdom. The idea that we're the threat to the peace process in Northern Ireland, the idea that we're going to put a hard border in place, has been utterly betrayed. Firstly, by Ursula von der Leyen, and now by the Irish government, who from Monday are putting back in place a hard border. There is now no reason why there should be any trade restrictions within our own United Kingdom. I want Michael Gove to watch this video, to see this interview with Ian Paisley. And I want you to email your MPs to say to them, please end this nonsense. The hypocrisy is on the other side. It's not on ours. We are the UK. We voted for Brexit. It needs to happen. Tell Mr. Sefcovic, on Thursday, where to go.